Hello, I'm here in my studio and I'm going to give you some information that all of you will need who are joining my classes this term. I think the importance of this video particularly is just to show you materials and how to use them, and then perhaps maybe give you a little quick demo, just dealing with some of the elements that kind of the materials and situations that we're going to be working in. We have both the virtual classes and we have the on location classes. So they're very similar as far as the materials are concerned and how to use the materials. I think the virtual classes will be giving you a lecture, and you'll be doing an assignment during the week. All right, and the on location classes, we have we're meeting on location, so that's our subject. And by the way, you will receive videos during the week. Review them because they have a lot to do with what we'll be working on. Okay, we have a number of levels of different levels of students in the classes, and I think some are beginners and just need really basic information. But there are a lot of you who've worked with me before, so this is just a introductory video that might help you to look back on what you do and decide what materials you might need to work with. All right. So we're going to begin just by saying that we need to have you come to class, particularly the on location people, with a sketchbook. All right. And all of you should have a sketchbook. And truthfully, what we're going to be using it for is, to do a series of drawings and things like that help you to kind of come up with ideas. All right, so the sketchbook is always an important tool. The type of sketchbook that you might want to buy, Plaza sells a number of really good ones. And I think I can't remember exactly what the name of this one is, but it's an English name. They handle it really good paper. And I think works well for everything from pencil to the pen. All right, so that's kind of the sketchbook that I carry in my bag. By the way, those of you on location or working in the studio with me at Glen Echo need to have a really good mask. And I'm going to ask that you, the people out on location though, we only need it when we're really close next to each other, or when somebody else comes by and interrupts you and wants to talk to you about your paintings. I think it's a good idea to have a mask. All right, so that's the other part of it. Different size sketchbooks. I mean, these are the kind of things that you can do your little sketches in, and some of them are just really quick little drawings. Okay, that this one being in the Acropolis, believe it or not, what I do whenever I go on location is Santorini. All right, it's a little. This is a little gouache sketchbook, which I really like putting gouache to it. So I'll carry a small set of gouaches as well. And I think, sometimes the work is just taken to a certain point. That's in order to get an idea as far as composition is concerned. It really helps to do this. All right. So we'll talk a little bit about the approach here in a second. The other things that I carry with me, I do carry a set of gouaches. This is made by Winsor Newton. And honestly, it's just an introductory set, probably about $50 some, and it's just basic gouache with a little water and a brush. Can really enhance your sketches. The other thing that I'd like you to get, especially for the people that are working with me on location this coming week, but everyone, are some of these small pens. And Faber-Castell sells a small pen set, and honestly, they work really well, for line drawing. we'll put a lot of emphasis on line drawing because that helps you to get ideas. So I think that you having those kinds of materials are important. What other materials do I have? Well, I do have my pencils and I have my pens and I have my eraser and I have my small pencil sharpener. Carry all this in a little bag and put it in my, this is my sketch bag. I'll show you that in a second here. I guess the other two things are just an eraser and a pencil sharpener. All right. So this is, and then having a very comfortable bag that you can carry everything in. And, I think that's important. So if anything, grab yourself, a bag and put your sketch material together. And we'll be talking about that when we start our first assignments, all right, this week. Okay, so that's that. All right, we're going to go to a special camera here right now. And the cameras, I think we're going to see where this one is. I have a couple of them now. We're not going to use that one yet. We're going to use this one. All right. So tomorrow I meet a group of you, my virtual landscape class. Can't wait to see the people that have worked with me before, but also the new people. And all my classes, by the way, are just about full, except for the landscape on location class, which has 3 spots still in it. I suspect it will fill up. And I'm teaching, I think, 5 classes. So, I'm pretty busy with at least 18 students in each class. So I think, if anything, I do my best, okay, to work with you. So just keep that in mind. All right, so let's go and we'll just take a look at some materials. First of all, you'll need a mineral spirits container or a water container, all right? And this is one that I think for years I never invested in these, but now I have like 6 or 7 of them, all right? They last forever, and really truthfully that you put either mineral spirits or could you use it for acrylic? You could, all right? I don't think you necessarily need to. You can have just a glass jar or a jar, but this shows you the mineral spirits, and there's a little container in the bottom here where you can rub your brushes on it. And I think that having one of those is real important, okay? So we're going to put that off to the side. Mineral spirits, I use terpenoid usually or Gamsol. All right, they're both odorless when I'm in the studio. And I think, turpentine has a lot of vapor, so I don't necessarily feel that it works as well. And then I think the next thing is to show you some of the paints. All right, so here we go with the paints right now. All right, Vasari is a company that really sells palette, kind of a palette of paint. They're expensive, all right, but they're really good paints. And this is a plein air set. So you can see that it has, all the variety of color here. Not a lot of colors, all right? And I think this is one of the things that's real important is you don't necessarily need to have a lot of color, okay? And I think that this is one of the things right now, when we look at the names on here, some of them are names we know, like burnt umber and or burnt sienna and yellow ochre. But then we have a ruby violet and a permanent bright red and a sulfur yellow. Those are different colors than the what you would buy from other manufacturers. And one of the things about Vasari is that truthfully, they mix the paints in a way that they interact with each other really well. But this is a palette that will really actually work together. And finding whenever you're using paints, finding that you choose certain colors. All right, a really basic palette is white, black, red, yellow, and blue. That's all you need are the primaries. All right. And I think that if I was to say get a very basic palette, I would say titanium white, ivory black, okay, cadmium yellow light, alizarin crimson, uh, viridian green, uh, phthalo blue, and burnt sienna. And I think that you'll be able to do just about everything that you need to do. You can make a really bright red with crimson and yellow. You can make an orange, of course. And as far as the blues are concerned, a yellow and a blue will make green. And I think black and yellow will make green. So there's a lot of different ways of working with palettes, but how simple do you need a palette to be? Well, that's up to you. One of the things you're going to see about me is that I use more color than what Vasari does as far as the the amount of paints. But truthfully, you can get by with a very limited palette. As I said, cadmium yellow light, alizarin crimson, phthalo blue, and viridian green, and burnt sienna. Okay, so that's if you don't want to invest in a lot of money in paints, that's what you will do. All right, so let's go ahead and get some of these paints out, and I'm going to put them out on a palette. You're seeing a palette that's sitting in front of you right now. All right, and the thing that I have on it, by the way, first of all, is a tool that I think everybody should have, which is a tube ringer. I wouldn't buy anyone's but the metal ones, all right, because the other ones don't hold up. Another tool that I have is a scraper, and this is what I can scrape my palette with very, very easily. You can use a palette knife as well, but this is one of the things that I carry with me, especially in my truck, all right, when I'm on a location. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put out some paint. And you normally put out paint based upon a certain way of working. Before I do that, I'm going to just show you a palette so that you can see what it is as far as holding a palette is concerned. But the palettes have a certain kind of beveled edge in here. And depending upon the way you hold the palette, that beveled edge should feel comfortable. All right. So like, for instance, this one would be, if I was truthfully, I'm right-handed, so I would be holding a palette like this. All right. Which means that I would be holding it like this. All right. And one of the keys to working with paintbrushes is that you can put the paintbrushes in your hand like this. All right. And I think that this, you see how simple working with a palette can be. Here I have the palette on my tabouret table. I think that really works well for me in the studio. And I have these clamps that I buy at Home Depot. I don't know if you can see them there. Yeah, you can see them. They're really inexpensive. You should have some of those because you may need them. All right. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put out some white. Normally, I'll put out paints according to how I grab them. All right. And I like working on the wood palette. You'll notice the amount of paint that I put out. All right. That's real important. I'm going to be selecting some colors here so that you can see what I'll be putting out here in a second. And I think the thing that for me, I carry a paint box full of paints. I think that's one of the things that is important, is to have a variety. This is Naples yellow. Naples yellow is a really light yellow. It seems to be reduced in its intensity by the white that's in it. It's a really great color for flesh tones, and it's a really great color for when you really want a soft yellow. All right. The next one I'm going to put out is a cadmium yellow light, or lemon yellow, and the lemon yellow is a little bit on the green side. Now you notice that I'm using my tool here, to kind of get as much paint out as possible. This way you don't wind up ever not using your paint, all right? But now we're gonna put out that. If you notice, I tend to put them in a way that you can actually mix toward the center, all right, of the palette. And then the next color that I'm going to put out is going to be a cadmium orange. And I think that this is the, an important color. One of the things for me, I can make orange with yellow and red, but honestly, it never is a bright orange. So having a bright orange is a good idea. The other color that I'm going to put out here is one that I highly recommend. And this is called Williamsburg Alizarin Yellow. All right. And anybody who doesn't have this color, I would highly recommend you buy it. All right. It is the most intense yellow. And it's really funny how it works, but it almost looks like a yellow ochre. It doesn't look like it's going to be a brilliant yellow at all. But I'm going to show you the mixing here in a few minutes. And then I have, we're going to transition into the reds, and this is called Brilliant Pink by Holbein, which, by the way, from my point of view with this particular color, is I mix it a lot with blues, and actually it creates a really intense color combination. All right, and now we're going to go after the reds. We're going to put out a few reds. Normally 1 or 2 reds is all you need. All right, but you may want a cadmium red light if you can find it in your box. All right, but we're going to see where it is here. Here's cadmium red light, and I think with that I can use the cadmium red light, and I can use alizarin crimson, and that would be my 2 colors of red. Let me just say this about red, okay, or any color. When you're making a palette, really a full color palette is a warm and cool of each color. All right. So it would be like, for instance, a cadmium red, red that I just put out there, cadmium red light. All right. I could put a cadmium red deep. I could put a cadmium red medium. I would only do that if I was painting a subject that had a lot of red in it. All right. So that's real important for you to know. And then right now I'm looking just for the alizarin crimson, and that is the cool red, and it's the cool dark red. And by the way, there are certain colors that actually literally they dance together. All right. So you want to make sure that you choose colors that do. All right. And alizarin crimson and phthalo green or viridian green, they dance together. All right. So I think they're the complements. So now we're going to go into the greens. All right. You notice that I've put my warm colors up at the top. All right. And now I'm going to go after my greens. And I usually only put 2 greens up. All right. I think that's for me, that's an important part of making a painting, is to realize that you can mix colors. All right. So I'll put out a phthalo green and a cadmium green light here in a second. All right. This is my phthalo. And see if I can get that to come out. Let me get my, it's amazing how this really works to keep things nice. And that's my phthalo green, and you notice it's next to my crimson here. All right, the complements. And then this is cadmium green light. I wouldn't live without it. All right, it's a color that for me really comes close to being a almost like the green that you see in sunlight. The only thing about that is that you can actually make it as well by taking the cadmium yellow light and the green, mix them together, and you can make that color. All right. The only thing is it sometimes isn't as intense. I have a red ochre right here, and I'm going to use it instead of burnt sienna. And that's because I really like the brown to have a certain warmth to it and transparency, and that red ochre does have that. So I really prefer that over the burnt sienna. I also am going to be using a peach black. I mentioned ivory black before. Ivory is probably the choice one. You notice that in a way, I put it close to the white. That's something that I'm just used to doing. All right. And then I'm going to go now into my blues. And I usually either use a King's blue or a Werder blue. All right. I use a radiant turquoise, which I'm going to show you here in a few minutes. I use an ultramarine blue. I'm going to try and get some of these paints. I'm just going to try and really use up here. So let me see if I can find all that I want. Or sometimes I'll use a Williamsburg blue. I definitely will use a phthalo blue, and I will use an ultramarine blue. All right, and a Prussian blue. So you can say, oh, you really use all those different blues. All right. Well, if there was a color that I use a lot of, it's very interesting, but I use blue. All right. And the blue that I'm using here is that's ultramarine by Williamsburg. All right. This is a Prussian blue. I like to group the Prussian blue closer to black because it is a really dark color. Okay. And then the other color that I'm going to be using here is phthalo blue. And by the way, I wound up buying bigger tubes like this now. I think it's easier and cheaper if you buy a tube this size. All right. And by the way, Gamlin is the probably of all the paints, you can get the best buys with Gamlin if you like their color. All right, which seems to be pretty good. All right, and there's a number of Gamlin paints that I do buy. This is King's Blue by Williamsburg. All right, it's almost a sky blue. So for a landscape painter, that's a really, really good color. And then I have a radiant turquoise that's here. And that radiant turquoise is very similar to the King's Blue, but it really mixes well with the Brilliant Pink, which is by Holbein, by the way. And a lot of my paints are by Holbein. All right. As you can see here, the Werder blue I'm not going to use right now, but I'm going to look for, there's one other color that I want, which is a radiant magenta. And I'll find that here in a second. And then we're about ready to start. We got our white out, which is titanium white. And I've got my, so this is the radiant magenta. All right. I'm going to put it, I'll put it down here. I didn't have enough room to put it somewhere, but there it is. So those are the paints. All right. And you can see how I've kind of placed them. All right. And I think that's important. The other thing is that with a lot of my, you want to decide to use a some sort of medium, all right? And I do have a an interesting medium that I carry. Let's see if I got it with my my bag here. But it's a non-solvent gel by Holbein. I'm sorry, Gamma. And I'll use that as a mixing agent. It's very transparent, clear, okay? But it's almost like an extender for the paint. But there are other times I'll use Neo Maglip or I will use, and neomegalip is made by Gamlin as well, or I'll use safflower oil, okay? And usually have a little cup, all right? I don't necessarily have one right now, so that's okay. And then as far as brushes are concerned, I'm going to show you the brushes that I use. I really like the brushes by Princeton, the Aspen series. Okay, and it's a good brush. So I think the I'm going to show you what they look like here in a second. Just pulling them out of my box, and you know, brushes wear out very quickly. So this is one of the unfortunate things about working with a brush, and so you wind up buying a lot of brushes. So I think that's one of the things that I'll just tell you. I've got some of the, my brushes are here right now. So I'm going to be showing you some of these. One is a round. This is a round, all right? And I might have to clean some of these off in a second. These are both rounds. Then I have a couple flats right here. You can say, well, what sizes do you use? It depends on the size of the painting. All right. Then I have a filbert, which is has a rounded edge to it. All right. And then I have another filbert, which is a nice big one like this. So these are the paints that I carry. I also carry this in my box, which is a brush restorer by Winsor Newton. And I can take a brush that just feels a little stiff, all right? And I can take it and I can put it in here and just swish it around a little bit, okay? And sure enough, I get it to really loosen up the paint, all right? And it's supposedly non-toxic, of course, but the paint itself is not non-toxic. And I usually buy these rags at Home Depot or actually Costco. Buy them by the bag full, all right? And I think that, so you can see me getting the paint off of here. Can you wash your brushes in soap and water? You can't, all right? So I think that's the other part. But this helps to get these brushes back so that I can work with them. And if they're, you know, a little stiff because I was out painting on location and I didn't clean them well enough, then I can go and just use this container for this stuff and just wipe them like that. Okay. So usually I hold the brushes in my hand and I have a rag off to the side. All right. And I work that way. Okay. So now you see the way I'm working here. All right. I have some palette knives. And I'll show you a couple that I think are real. We have what's called painting knives. Essentially, that's what they are. So, you know, using a painting knife, I think, is a good idea. And I feel, you know, there are certain knives that I really like as far as the shape is concerned. Of course, I'm looking for one right now. Here's one right here. This is a shape that I really like, and then I like this shape here. And I think that both of those are what I use. I do. How much scraping do I do of paint? Quite a bit. All right. So I think that's one of the things that I'm going to say to you as far as you making a painting. All right. So now where are we with this? All right. How do we start making you know, any painting? All right. Well, I'm going to just give myself a small little canvas, and I'm going to give you an idea of how I start a painting. All right. I have both canvases that are they're toned and canvases that are not toned. All right. And I think a toned canvas can be a really good and interesting surface to work on. sometimes I wind up toning them. I was looking around the room here because I cleaned up my studio today and I had a tone canvas I was going to show you, but darn if I can find it. Oh, here it is. Okay, they're right in front of me. So this is what I really like to do. All right, is to tone my canvas, and this is a tone that it's almost greenish in color, but it really was the bottom of my mineral spirits jar. Put a little bit of oil on it and tone the canvas. Here's a white one. Okay, so I'm going to show you how I start a painting now. All right, and this way, anybody who's just starting out, that you'll get to learn how to make a painting. All right, so the new people, studying with me for the first time, you're going to get to see, what I do. Been painting for about 50 years. All right, so now we're going to go to the other camera. All right, and you should be able to see the white. You can see where I am here, so that you can see what I'm doing. All right, I'm just looking to see the way I want to work here, as far as an idea is concerned. All right, but I think the key I had actually. Maybe I'm going to move this one camera here. Let me do this real quick. Okay, bear with me. It's going to get a little strange. Maybe at first I'll just go back to this here so that I can move this camera. See what we get as far as the this camera is concerned. Okay, got that big painting there that I'm working on. So to give you an idea, I'm busy all the time. So I'm just going to adjust the camera a little bit. Okay, and I'm going to do a quick little study of the building. I've got a little computer off to the side, and I'm just going to be looking at it. And this way, I have it here so that I can just kind of copy it. All right. So the first thing that I do is I usually like to work with a color that is what we call a medium tone value. All right, and I usually use a filbert brush, so it's something like this. And I go after the design first. I'll do some sketches beforehand. Might take a little bit of I was talking about that solvent that I have, mix it in with the paint. All right, but it's just you can see it's on my brush right now. All right, and I'm just gonna do a sketch. Now I want to tell you what I would like you to do for me is realize that when you draw, okay, that you kind of want to draw things in a way that kind of works, all right? And in order for that to do that, all right, it you want to kind of work your mind so that you can kind of get this to work this way, all right? And one of the keys to doing anything is just lining up your brush with something and finding the right angle, all right, of it, all right, just you can measure things out later. We'll talk about that, but right now you kind of see me just placing things. All right, I'll give you I'll send you a link to how to triangulate. Okay, I'm not going to do that tonight. All right, but I am going to show you how I brush in my idea first. Okay, and don't be afraid. One of the things about paint is that you can wipe it off. I mean, if there's a problem, okay, you can wipe it off. All right, acrylic won't. All right, actually, that's the line that I wanted to stay. It's the other one that I wanted to take off. So this is the one that should stay. All right, so what I've done is just drawn this out. Now the next thing is to do what we call the notan. The notan is to really look and squint and see where the darks are. All right, and you can hear me scumbling a little bit, but this is the dark side of the building. And so I'm putting in my dark shapes according to how I see them. All right, and of course here's another one here, the shadow. And beyond it, we have the tree line. Okay, and some other dark shapes here, and we have a shadow being cast under the eaves, so we want to put that in. A medium tone value means a color on a scale from 1 to 10 is a 5, and usually like a color that would be like that would be like a burnt sienna or a cadmium red. All right, not too dark, definitely not black. Okay, but now you can kind of see how I've done this. I'm going to show you the picture that I'm working with right now. All right, it's up there, and you can kind of get an idea of what that looks like. All right, but one of the things that I want you to understand about this is that we have to make some decisions as to what are the dark and what are the light shapes. And I've pretty well made my decision that these are my darks and the other colors are my lights. Okay, so then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go after some of the colors. All right, and I'm just cleaning off this brush a little bit because it's a big brush. One of the things that I forgot to do was just to go after the sky. There are some dark shapes in the sky. Like for instance, there's this dark shape here, which is the clouds. All right, so I'm going to throw some of that in. Okay, because I want to make sure that I have something like that. All right, so then the next thing is I kind of go after my medium tone values. I like to really think in terms of what the other colors are. So it's easy sometimes to organize your colors based upon a certain quality, okay, of value and intensity, which means the brightness and the dullness of the color. All right, but we can go ahead and we can start to bring in our color. All right, and I think that you're going to see that you see me touching, but you don't see me brushing. All right, I'm using a flat brush now. All right, so that has a lot to do with it. You don't use a flat brush like you use a filbert. Okay, so I'm setting the stage for this this green that I'm working with. All right, and I'm mixing it a little bit with burnt sienna, or I'm sorry, the red that I have, and I really want to try to get the color as close as I can to what I'm seeing, but I'm brushing it in, and you can see that this is the light side and this is the dark shape. And by the way, there's a shape in here like this. And if you can draw out the shape, you can always work on the value and color later. All right. So I think that one of the keys, and by the way, I really clean my brush off in that container, and then I really rub the rag and get it to be as clean as I can get it. All right. So we do have a red, dark reddish brown roof here, but the red that we're going to be using has to have a certain kind of feeling of brightness to it because it's facing the light. All right, So you see me using a lot more cadmium red mixed into the color and putting in the light that way. One of the things that I want you to understand about the color of the light is that it's determined by the warmth of the light. So that when we look at the other side of the building, all right, we see that it is much cooler. All right. And I think that's one of the things that you really, whenever you're working with dark colors, you want to realize that if you're going to really make them work as a shadow, that the shadow will be cool. And if it's a dark color, like the roof, it's going to be a dark, but it's going to be a warm color. All right. And one of the other things that happens, and this is what you start to ask yourself some questions about, is squint. All right. Because the area that seems to be a little darker and a little, and I'm going to mix some ultramarine blue and some brilliant pink together. But here is and I'm trying to make that color, by the way, as close as I can. But this is going to be the darker. I'm on a white canvas, so I have to be I have to paint the darks in first, because I can't really paint the lights in so easily. So I'm just getting the dark side of the sky. It's darker this side than it is on the other side. Now you notice how I'm touching, all right? And by the way, we can come back to that green that we painted before now, and we can really start to add a little bit more yellow to it. And remember, because I said that the warmer the color is, the more it feels like sunlight. All right. So now we're, and some of this burnt sienna is working its way in. That's okay. That doesn't bother me. All right. But every shape goes from dark to light or light to dark. So you really want to understand that as well. And one of the other things is, you have to kind of judge your values. And honestly, the way you judge your values is to squint. Okay, because that may be a little bit too dark. So now you kind of come back and make it a little bit lighter, and it's a little bit more brilliant. This one is a little bit more on the yellow green side here, but a darker kind of orange or green, but not as dark as the one that's in front. So we're going to put that in like that. Okay. And eventually we're working, remember, we're working toward the light. So I put this in here, all right, earlier, right? But now it's actually getting lighter coming toward me. I'm reading this whole shape, by the way. All right. I want you to understand something about what I'm doing here. I'm reading this is a shape here. This is a shape here. This is a shape here. All right. So I'm really looking at my pattern of shape, and you can see me trying to get close to the color here. But I also know that the color is getting lighter as it's coming toward me and getting yellower as it's coming toward me. So, little by little now I'm filling in all those white areas, but I'm leaving the white areas based upon the values, all right? The strongest light is right here. So the next part is the sky. Here's where I might use the difference in color is that I might use the blue, okay, that King's blue, but really we want to get the dark shapes in. And remember, the darker you make the values, all right, the lighter the lights become. So we're just kind of throwing that in right now. I'm squinting as I'm doing this. All right. And the two areas that we said were darker, but they're bluer, happen to be right here. So I'm going to use phthalo blue and white and really go after the color of the sky now in these areas that were darker. And there's burnt sienna up in here and it's mixing with the cover, but that's okay. All right. So now we have that in. Now see how fast I was able to get this in. All right. If you get your shapes and you really work the color of your shape, then you can work your value in colors. All right. So I think that that's important. Now this is sunlight. Here's that Naples yellow that I was talking about. That Naples yellow's here. All right. And then it essentially gets a little bit oranger because that's how colors work. They go from white to yellow to orange to red to green to blue to violet. So that side of the building becomes a little bit more orange and a little darker. And we have our complements, and you need to understand your complements, which are your violets and your oranges. And here you can see me going after that shadow, that violet shadow. All right. And of course, it works its way in here. It starts to subtly make that move like that. All right. So then the next thing is that what you're doing is just really looking for contrast. And, one of the most important things here is this dark that's underneath this roof here. That really pops that roof. Okay. And the roof actually gets duller as it goes back up against the sky back here. It's lighter as it's coming toward us. So you can see me seeing it as a little cooler. And you can see me almost just lightly just touching the brush. All right. So that's the other part of this that I think is real important. And then we can kind of go after our contrast of our dark here. And you want to really look to see what edge is the darkest. And the edge is the darkest here on this side. And then it gets softer as it goes across here. So you really want to teach yourself to study edges. And I'm going to come back and really look at these edges now. All right, because one of the areas where the edge really stands out, all right, is about right. Let's see if I can make it, but it's right here on this building, right in here. All right, so here's the strongest edge on this building. All right, here's the strongest edge on that shape there. If I was to say, how strong is this edge? It's pretty strong too, but these tend to be stronger, all right, on this side. So now you see me touching and working colors together, and I can adjust the warm and coolness. I can adjust the violet quality. If I think it needs more violet, all right, then I'll start to put some violet in and start working that color combination and seeing how that's working. And honestly, I want to squint because it's getting darker into this corner over here. Okay. And it's lighter over there. So we want to make sure that we get that light to really be strong and that we understand that edge. All right. And we can see, there are elements here where I can see, like, for instance, blue in the green. All right. And that blue is probably because of the orange that's right here, by the way, really throws this color into being kind of bluer. So now you see me kind of working that, and then we're going to kind of go back into this dark area back here. And it's a little bit cooler than the roof, so we can kind of go back and throw that in something like that. Okay. And, light-wise, just keep in mind that this is the lighter area of the painting. All right. So you want to make sure that you get your values right. Okay. And, if you do feel a contrasting edge, all right, You might make it, so you feel the edge right here, you might make that edge, but you want to measure it off of whatever edges you already have. Okay, and if the color of the sky is much more intense and pure, then we mix more pure color in, and so now we have something like that, and then we come back with our violet, all right, a violet sky here, and you can see how the violet will start to push up against the blue. So I think that you see how I've built the values in this particular piece, all right? And if, by the way, I want things to really become really light, I'll make something darker. So the darker I make that, the lighter that foreground has become, all right? And I think if I start feeling coolness in here, then I start throwing some cool colors in. And, if I always come back and tie my dark shapes together, all right? So, and I'll come back and adjust both the warm and coolness of the color. If it feels oranger, then I'll put more orange in it. If it feels lighter, then I'll put a lighter color in it, you see, all right? And, if it feels more intense, brighter color, then we'll throw some brighter color in here. And usually your intense or saturated, or what we call brighter colors, come toward you, and duller colors recede. So if you decide you want things to recede, then you'll dull them down. All right. But now you can kind of see how I'm playing with this, and I'm laying color on top of color now. I'm adjusting things, really studying, like for instance, the shadow under this eave here is lighter over here on this side than it is on that side. All right. And this color almost comes to be the same value here. So now we're putting that in, and that's helping now to make that little window that's back there. So you see how all of a sudden I've gotten that. Now, as far as the drawing is concerned, I might have to come back and adjust the drawing. I'm sitting off to the side painting this, all right? But, I can adjust the shape of it, all right? And continue to work. All right. I hope this helped you. If you have any questions, let me know. But let me go back now to the and then what you do is just keep working on it till you get it to look exactly the way it is. All right. The thing that I want to do right now is I'm going to do one more here. I want to come here and just talk about mixing paint, because you got to see this. But what you didn't see is how little mixing I did. All right, which is very interesting. And you can see how I want you to see the whites, what I do with the two whites. I've got the greens on this side, I've got the reds on this side, I've got the blues on this side. And by the way, you do have all this space around here in order to make things work. But I want to just say to you, whenever I clean my brushes, I clean them like this. I really go back and forth, and then I clean my brush really totally clean. Notice you can't see any paint. All right, so that's the key. You clean that brush until there's no paint, because that, if you want intense color, all right, then you'll have to keep it clean. All right, so I think that's where we are. This is the talking about the transparency. Here it is here. If I mix something with it, you can see how transparent that black can be. The more black I mix into it, the darker it becomes. All right, it's a Prussian blue, by the way. All right, So, that's what this transparency is it extends the paint. All right. So if you need a real transparent piece of paint, you put more of that in it. All right. And you can see there are colors that I didn't use yet on my palette. All right. And if you see those, you start saying to yourself, oh, you haven't been thinking about those. Maybe that's the color that you need to make the thing work. All right. And by the way, let's go to the palette knife right now. Go back to this painting and just show you some things with the palette knife that I tend to do. All right. One of the keys is with the palette knife is I'll soften edges. I'll work colors into one another. All right. So, if I'm making a sky, I'll really move that paint around like it's a cloud. All right. And if I need to put a thicker, heavier piece of paint on, all right, then I'll put it on like that. And I can do that with my palette knife. Okay. So you can see how I could make a cloud, all right, or a cloud-like shape. Or if I need to really make the an area stand out more, okay, where I really want the light to really be strong, then I'm going to really use my palette knife and put that paint down really thick. Okay, so now you see how you can really get an edge and you can really play up on a moment's emphasis of light on the painting. Let's see if we can get that closer so you can kind of get an idea. And I will be playing my edges. If this edge is disappearing here into that dark behind it, then I'm going to work it like that. And if I need to really work my foreground, all right, I will use my palette knife to do it like that. And then I'll add more white in here. And that will keep that as a lighter area. Okay. And this is what the palette knife does. How many artists use palette knives? Everybody. All right. Everybody who does a lot of painting uses a lot, does a lot with a palette knife because it can create atmosphere. All right. And like I said, if you need a nice big cloud, a nice big pink cloud here. Okay. And you throw the pink cloud on. This one's going to be a cooler, greener cloud over here. So we'll put some green in it, and that will become our green cloud. Okay, and then over here is our violet cloud. So we fill the violet in here. So now so that'll give you an idea of how I can make this painting work. All right. And if you have any questions, let me know. All right. But that should help you to get an understanding of how to use both the palette knife and the whatever other tools that you can use. All right. And here you see me using the palette knife just to put paint on thicker, which I think is sometimes you can't do with the brush. So put it on like that. Okay, with that, I hope that helps you. And this will get everybody started, particularly when we're out on location or when we are working in the classroom or working on your own work, I think in your studio. The other thing that I would want to say is that a lot of the color combinations that I'm using in this painting have a lot to do with complements. So it's not only warm against cool, all right, but it's also the complement, the violet against the yellow, the orange against the blue or green, okay, blue green is here, the orange against the blue that's in the sky. All right, these are things that wind up making good strong color vibrations. All right, and you know, if I decide I really want to throw that paint on to get that cloud to feel like it's the way those clouds are working, then I'm going to, you can see me kind of playing with that at this point. Okay, so yeah, well, I love painting. I love it. All right, I hope that helped you, and we'll be talking. All right, so let me come back and say good night to you. And if you have any other questions, just get in touch with me. All right, I'm looking forward to this coming week and all the things we're going to do together. All right, take care. Bye.